Hello and welcome to Vital Truth. We're going to be talking today about religious addiction. You might ask, what is religious addiction? Well, this is so serious and important that I want to get this out. And I'm going to take my time. This is the beginning of a number of series that I'll be doing. This is my first video on religious addiction. So you bear with me, and we're going to try to get through this with the help of the Lord. Religious addiction. One of the greatest addictions pertaining to religion is going to church. Now, if you've got a good church, and you're being fed, and you're happy, and you're moving up with the Lord, that's great. But I find that most churches is not getting the job done. I see an addiction. And a lot of people's got a habit. You know, old habits are hard to break sometimes. And this religious viper has sunk its fangs into people and injected religious venom, and it's saturated every fiber of people's being. They eat, breathe, meditate church. That's their first priority. When in reality, God should be their first priority. And I've found by experience that a lot of churches don't know God. A lot of people don't know God. They go through a form of godliness, but they deny the power thereof. Excuse me. So a lot of people will break their neck just to get to church because they got to keep that image up. And it is an image. They care about what other people says. They got to protect themselves, so therefore they got a habit of going to church. And I know from firsthand a lot of people be getting ready to go to church, folks, and because they're running late, they cuss hell off of hinges. They cuss their wife and children out because they're going to be late for church. And when they do finally get them in the car, there's anger and hostility. Can you relate to what I'm saying today, folks? When they do get them in the car and they start down the road, they may look and there's some old man or woman stranded beside of the road. And maybe had a blowout, maybe need help, but they can't stop because they're going to be late. They put the pedal to the metal. They got to get that religious fix. It's an addiction, folks. They got to have that. They got to have that hit, because after all, it could put them into convulsions. It could cause serious withdrawals if they don't get to church. So therefore, there's scriptures on what I'm saying about the Samaritan. About a Levi and a priest passing on the other side. A man had been robbed and wounded and left for dead. And a Levi and a priest went by and went on the other side to keep from helping him. But an old Samaritan that was hated by the Jews took the time to help him. He bound his wounds up, poured oil in his wounds, put him on his donkey and took him into town and told the innkeeper, "Look, sir, take care of this man, and if there's any more charge, I'll pay you next time I come by." Now that is a neighbor, folks. Seemingly a lot of your sinner people has more of a spiritual outlook on life than a lot of your religious folks do. So there they go. They go to church. They got to get there because they got this image they got to protect. And they get up. Maybe they play music. Maybe they teach a Sunday school class. They get to church, and there they are. They got to fill that position. Boy, people's hung up on positions. I'm telling you, never seen nothing like it, folks. Everybody's got to elbow their way in and be a part of something. They got to have this position, that position. And that's why 90% of the people in the churches today is out of their calling, because they've been placed there either by themselves or by the pastor that don't know God either. Anytime anyone don't know God, they'll lean to their own understanding. It's who do they like? Who is in the clique? So therefore, there they are. They get up and he starts trying to sing the glory of God down. And there's a wife sitting out and looking him dead in the eye after she just got cussed out because she probably caused him to almost be late for church, and the veins popped out in his neck and his nostrils flared and his eyes bulging, went into a tizzy. You know what I'm talking about, folks? I've been there and done that. You see, I've only been straight about 9 years. I'm a recovering religious addict. And some of you, a lot of you possibly, needs to get detoxed. You need to be brought out of this bondage that you're in. This religious bondage, because these vipers has bit you, and the poison, the venom has saturated your fiber of all your being. You're in trouble. You're dying. There's no hope, seemingly. But the first step to getting help is realizing that you need help. So there you are. You're trying to do God's work on a guilt trip because you've been a bad boy, you've cussed your family out, or you didn't help somebody on the way to church because you had to be there. Oh, and I want to bring something out right now. If you're in an established church, folks, you're living under the law. Did you know you're living under the law? Yep, big brothers are watching you. You know why? Because in order to have an established church, you've got to be registered with the state. And you got to have something called bylaws. The Bible tells us that Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law. You say, yeah, but that's different from Moses' law. Laws are laws, folks. You got your church rules and regulations. They even got covenants hanging up on the walls for you to read. You either abide by their rules or you're not part of them. So therefore, you're obligated to do your duty, your civic duty. That's all it is just a social club, most of them. Yeah, you're registered with the state. You got your bylaws. You got rules and regulations. And guess what? When they make a state religion, when the end time really comes around and there's a one world religion, they're going to come after you before they do anybody because you're registered with Big Brother. You're part of the state because of the bylaws and the register that you had to do to become a part of this thing. And when they start sifting out, you're going to be put on the spot, folks. You're going to be put on the spot. Do you have enough power of God to deny the world and accept Christ? What if you got confronted and put on the spot? If you was in the courtroom being tried for being a disciple of Christ, do they have enough evidence on you to convict you? If not, you're in deep water. You're in trouble. And it only takes the blood of Jesus to get you out. You can't fix it yourself. You can't fix your religious addiction yourself. You need help. You need somebody to help you that's been there and done that. You don't need a novice. You need someone that knows what they're talking about. And not only is the social club of the church's bondage in these ways, but it's expensive. What do you mean it's expensive? Well, you've got all your pledges. You know churches that takes up pledges. Your flower funds. Your tithes and offerings. Your mission funds. Missionary funds. All these things. And there you sit. How many people have you seen pledge when they didn't have the money to pledge with because they're put on a guilt trip? Well, if you'll pledge, God will supply your needs. Oh yeah? I know people, maybe you know people, that's sitting in the dark where they've had their electric cut off, maybe their water's cut off, their telephone, yet they pay their tithes. Because after all, you got to give God His 10%. Hey, I'm going to do some videos on how to give. Jesus was very clear on how to give and who to give to. We've been deceived, folks. The religious vipers is deceiving us. They're leading us down that broad road to destruction. And we're going to be held accountable for not being good stewards with our money. The Bible says them that don't provide for their households are worse than an infidel. You say, well, you mean charity begins at home? Well, that's a good saying, yes. You're supposed to take care of your family first. I mean, You brought your children into the world. You got to feed them. You got to clothe them. You got to take care of them. And your wife, when she said, I do, for better or for worse, you got to provide for her because you're the head of the house, man. But these religious gurus has brainwashed you and a lot of other people are thinking that if you don't give, oh, I'm going to be doing videos on seed, folks. That's a good one. Some of my videos down the road is going to be on seed. I think there's a great misunderstanding on what seed is. But anyway, getting back to this addiction that people has, one of the greatest, or one of the worst things about religion is judgmental. You know, I worked in entertainment down where I live, and me, my wife, and son, we played music, and you can tell who these religious people was by how they dressed. And some of the most mean-spirited people that I've ever seen is some of the holiness people. They even look contrary and hateful because they're so full of judgment. In other words, if you don't look like them and act like them, you are going to hell. Let me tell you something, folks. God is a heart God. God's not playing games. He's after your heart. He don't care what you look like. He knows. God knows when He gets your heart right, you're gonna take care of the outer man. You got to be bigger inside than you are. You got to be bigger inside than you are outside, folks. You got to be bigger inside than you are in the flesh. If you're not, then you're going to succumb to the wiles of the devil. You're going to be in bondage to religion. Excuse me. But these people, they got to have this high. They've got to feel goosebumps. They got to be a running and hooping and hollering and carrying on. Well, I've heard people say, hey, you missed out on a good service last night. Why the Spirit took over and they didn't even get to preach. People was a-running and falling and jumping and carrying on. Let me tell you something, folks. God is not the author of confusion. He's a gentleman. Yes, I'm a recovering religious addict. And you know what? My Father has set me free. Whom the Son sets free, they're free indeed. Be sure and watch my next video. It's coming up. May Jesus bless you.